Hey everyone, Andrew here, and it's time for another manga series review slash anime series review, because I'm kind of good doing both for this. Today I will be looking at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 2, aka Battle Tendencies. It took me a little while to get to this one. I honestly didn't think I would take this long with it. But I had other things that I wanted to do and other ideas, and I read a whole other book. So it got put on the back burner for a bit. I was also a little bit wary to do this one specifically because it gets a bit complicated and I really like it, but it's hard to tell. But I kind of also wanted to push this forward because I really want to talk about some of the later seasons, especially a certain series that everyone else loves and I cannot stand, and I just kind of need to get that out of my body and out into the world at a certain point. But that will be for another day. Today I'll be looking at Battle Tendencies, which is about Jonathan Joestar's grandson, Joseph Joestar. And it's really interesting and really unique, and you could really see where the series could go from here and what the heights it could reach, which makes the third season even more interesting in hindsight. But we'll get to that at the end. So let's go a little bit over the plot. At the end of the last series, Jonathan Joestar had sacrificed himself to take down R.E.O, but managed to save his wife Irina and their unborn daughter, as well as another random girl from the boat. Irina moved to America and had a daughter. The daughter married a gentleman, of course, and had the grandson Joseph. Now, Joseph's father went to fight in the First World War and then died under mysterious circumstances. Joseph's mother disappeared. No one knew what happened to her. She just up and left one day and left Joseph to be raised by Irina. And Joseph has been living in New York and has a very cocky, self-assured attitude. He is a very arrogant little prick. Like the complete opposite of Jonathan. Like, Jonathan was the perfect gentleman. This is the guy that gets slapped across the face for selling a woman her ass looks great. That's Joseph Joestar an extent. Like, that kind of more like an anti-hero. Like, he is not the guy you want to come save you, but he's the guy that can do it. And he has this annoying ability slash habit where he gets to the point where he knows exactly what his enemy is thinking and will start to read their minds and be able to predict everything they're going to do and everything they're going to say. And it's definitely not an actual power he has, but it's played in such a way that it feels like that's his actual power, that he does 100% know what people are thinking at a certain point. Like, he does not like authority. He does not like being told what to do. The only person in the world he respects is his grandmother Irina. Everyone else he cannot do that with. He's also naturally gifted in hormone. Like, he can do the hormone breathing 100% naturally. It takes no effort from him. And at the start of this story, he is as strong as Jonathan was at the end of his. So he's already starting off at a high level of hormone without any real focused training in it. Also, during this time, R.E.O. Speedwagon went from being a street urchin who followed Jonathan around to becoming a wealthy oil tycoon, and has been using his vast sums of money to study the stone masks and where they come from and their origin, and he ends up going with his expedition crew where they uncover a tomb filled with stone masks. And there is also a petrified body living in a stone pillar, and it's actually still alive somehow. One of Speedwagon's crew, a man named Strizo, who is obsessed with becoming immortal, kills the archaeology team and violently wounds Speedwagon and then uses Speedwagon's blood to activate the stone mask, turning himself into a vampire. He then travels to New York to take down Joseph because he knows that the man in the pillar is a pillar man, is a uber vampire, and that the only person in this world who could even stand a chance of stopping him is Joseph Joestar. So he's going to take out Joseph before he can become powerful enough to do it. Strozzo runs into Joseph, and Joseph immediately pulls out a Tommy gun and lays into Strozzo. Strozzo manages to survive. He tries to do the laser eye thing that Dio used to kill Joseph. He tries to use it to pierce Joseph's head and neck, but Joseph reflects it back using a mirror, and ends up embedding Strozzo with Harmon. Strozzo explains to Joseph that the Pillarmen are coming. That this Pillarman is feeding off the blood of the slowly dying Speedwagon, and that soon he will come and destroy the world. So, and then Strozzo explodes. Joseph gets on a plane and heads to Mexico to go rescue Speedwagon. Meanwhile, in Mexico, Speedwagon has been found by this German military general named Rudolf von Stronheim. And Stronheim has been following Speedwagon for a while, and he wants to use the Stone Masks and the Pillarmen to give more power to his Führer. Stronheim sacrifices a whole bunch of prisoners to flood the figure with blood. Stone Man comes to life, and Stronheim gives him the name of Santana. Then Stronheim sends in a soldier that he has been imbued with the Stone Mask to turn into a vampire. He sends him in to test out Santana, see what his power level is. Santana immediately absorbs the vampire into himself, and then he speaks Stronheim's name. That he has gained the intelligence of that and now knows how to speak in a language we can understand. He then can basically liquefy himself to kind of at the molecular level, goes up into the steam vents, and starts heading his way into the base interior. Joseph shows up as Santana is slaughtering all of the soldiers, and Joseph tries to stay out of the fight. He doesn't want to get involved, but manages to irk Santana. So Santana is like, I'm going to kill you now, and tries to murder Joseph. Joseph manages to use his hormone to keep Santana from absorbing him, but they realize that the only way to even remotely stop this being is with sunlight. That's the only thing left that can actually harm him. So Stronheim tries to open the big metal doors, but Santana wraps his hand around Stronheim's leg. Joseph cuts off Stronheim's leg to allow Stronheim enough time to be able to open up the door and bring in sunlight. But Santana dives into Stronheim's body through the opening in his leg, and forces the body to go and fall into a well to hide. Stronheim manages to gain enough control over himself to explain to Joseph, you need to go to Rome. There is more Pillarmen in Rome. You need to stop them. And then he sets off a grenade, taking himself out to try and destroy Santana. Santana manages to survive this and tries to attack Joseph again, but Joseph uses the sunlight reflected off the wall to turn Santana into stone, thus killing him. Kind of. He's still kind of alive. Basically, Speedwagon sends him off to the Speedwagon Foundation to study him, but he's going to stay dormant forever. And I mean that, like, he literally will never come back in any way, shape, or form. Joseph and Speedwagon head off to Rome, and there they run into a man named Caesar, who is a hormone user and is entertaining children with bubbles. Caesar reveals that he is known as Caesar Zeppeli, and that he is the grandson of Will Zeppeli, who trained Jonathan Joestar. Caesar automatically hates Joseph right away, both because Joseph's grandfather got Caesar's grandfather killed, but also because Joseph is an arrogant prick, and he's easy to hate. Like, it's hard to like him based off his personality type of thing. But they agree to put their differences aside and work together to try and take out these Pillarmen before they can wake up and cause any trouble. So Speedwagon, Caesar, Joseph, and Caesar's friend Mark travel into the catacombs underneath the Colosseum to take out the Pillarmen. Unfortunately, the German soldiers were already down there, and they unfortunately woke up one of the Pillarmen, Wamu, who kills all of the German soldiers and feeds them to his masters, Cars and AC/DC. So the 4 pillarmen have been awoken. The 3 pillarmen in this case. It's kind of interesting. Also, you can really tell the musical names in this one more, honestly, more than pretty much any other one. But it's like you got Cars for the Cars, you got Santana for Carlos Santana, you have Whamu, which is only over here in America. In Japan, he's Wham, which is, the band Wham. And then you have AC/DC, which is spelled completely differently for the Americans, but it's clearly, AC/DC. And they basically go to leave. They have no interest in fighting Joseph or anything of that nature. And Whamu just lightly bumps into Caesar's friend Mark, which ends up destroying half of Mark's body. Like, half his body just explodes on the impact. Caesar is then forced to use Haman to kill his friend to end his suffering, and he vows vengeance on these pillarmen, and so he and Joseph go after Whamu. Caesar engaged Whamu in battle. Whamu takes him out fairly easily. Joseph tries to get in the fight and manages to land one hit with his Haman-infused clackers. You know what clackers are? That little rope with 2 balls on the end. He just uses it and manages to hit him. But then basically Whamu beats the ever-living crap out of Joseph. And Joseph, in his last breaths, as he's about to be completely destroyed, goes, "I am the first person who managed to land a hit on you in centuries. And I guarantee you, if I have the time, you give me 30 days, I can kill you and the others." And any intelligent villain would go, "Okay," and just kill him. But the Pillarmen are extremely prideful, and they respect acts of pride and acts of valor of that nature. So they're like, interesting. Let's make this more interesting, though. So Whamu sticks his hand into Joseph and implants a ring into Joseph's aorta. And the ring is designed that in 33 days it will dissolve and poison and immediately kill Joseph in an extremely painful way. Then AC/DC shows up and plants another ring inside Joseph's windpipe. So not only do you have to get strong enough to beat one of us, you have to beat both of us within 33 days or you will die extremely painfully. And the antidote is on us. It's in our little nose rings we have on us. And then they leave in search of something else. Caesar agrees that he and Joseph need to work together and they need to go and train. So Caesar takes Joseph to meet his master, a woman named Lisa, named after Lisa in the Cult Jam, obviously. Lisa agrees to train them. She makes Joseph wear this very limiting face mask so he can't breathe as easily, because apparently breathing hormone naturally wasn't enough and you'd make it harder. Then takes them to this nearby island called Aerosoplina and makes them climb something called the Hell Pillar. It's basically a 24-meter straight up pillar with no groups or cracks or any way of trying to climb up at all. And so they have to use their pure hormone to stick to the wall and use it to climb up. The tower is also constantly being covered in oil, so you cannot even have less chance of being able to do it. It takes weeks, but they manage to get up to the top of the pillar. Joseph nearly falls to his death at the last second, but Caesar catches him and pulls him up. Once they finish the tower, Lisa explains to them what the Pillarmen are after and what their plan is. She reveals that she has this stone called the Suba Aja, which is the red stone of Asia, or Asia, and that this stone is a super powerful hyperconductor. Basically, it can empower pretty much anything, but if the Pillarmen get it, they can combine it with their stone masks and allow themselves to evolve into the ultimate life form. That the handful of little weaknesses that they have now, such as sunlight, will no longer be a factor. That they will lose all weaknesses and just become perfect beings. And that they have to do everything in the power that the Pillarmen do not figure out that she has the stone and cannot get their hands on the stone. So of course the Pillarmen immediately know she has the stone, and they show up. Joseph is supposed to go train with this trainer named Loggins, who I'm pretty sure is named after Kenny Loggins. Loggins is dead, and standing over him is AC/DC. AC/DC and Joseph end up having this fight over a spike pit. So like just AC/DC has no trouble standing on the pit, whereas Joseph has to use Hamon to keep the pins from piercing him. And they have a fight, and Joseph is getting his butt kicked for the first beginning of it, but then gets the mask cut open, and he's finally able to breathe normally. And he uses wool to slice off one of AC/DC's arms, but AC/DC's like, not worried about that, and just rips off one of the arms of the apprentice that he killed and puts it on him, and he's fine. And is just about to kill Joseph again, but Joseph manages to outsmart him and covers him with this hormone conducting wool, and it causes him to explode. Joseph then takes the antidote and takes out the ring that's in his windpipe and starts to head back towards Lisa. However, he is unaware that AC/DC's nervous system is still alive and is attached to his back. Thankfully, with the hormone, it cannot take over his body. But when Joseph gets to Lisa, and they know that she has the stone, the nervous system attaches itself to Lisa's assistant, Susie Q. And with that, takes the stone, mails it off, and then gets on a boat heading for Venice. Joseph and Caesar manage to catch up with the boat and are able to take out AC/DC without harming Susie Q. And then they find out that the Red Stone of Asia has been sent to St. Moritz in Switzerland. So Lisa, Joseph, and Caesar travel to Switzerland. Along the way, they run into a Nazi German military who are being led by Stronheim. And Stronheim not only managed to survive the grenade attack, but now has been enhanced with cybernetic parts. So he's literally a cyborg. And it leads me to question, if you had the ability to make cyborg men, why would you need AC/DC and the Stone Pillar Men? You literally can make superhumans already. But yeah, so they all travel to Switzerland and immediately run into cars. Basically fights them off fairly easily without much trouble, but Joseph manages to get his hand on the Red Stone of Asia, takes that, and gets separated from cars due to the sunlight. Caesar believes that the cars is hiding out in this abandoned hotel nearby, so he takes off by himself. At the hotel, he ends up running into Wamo. He tries his best to fight against Wamo, but Wamo just decimates him. But he manages to get the antidote off of Wamo and uses the last of his strength to create a blood bubble with the antidote to send to Joseph. Wamo sees this and respects Caesar's resolve that even to his last breath he was doing everything to save his friend. So he allows this to happen. Joseph and Lisa find Caesar. They take the antidote, and he takes Caesar's scarf, but he does not inhale the antidote. He will not do it until he can manage to defeat Wamo in revenge for Caesar. They end up running into Wamo and cars in this arena that is filled with vampires that are following their masters who created them, the Pillar Men. And they end up agreeing to a fight. Joseph and Wamo decide that they are going to have the first fight. They are going to fight in a chariot race, using vampire horses. Joseph puts on the banner of Caesar and prepares to do battle. It's insane. It's crazy. It's really cool. It ends up being like Joseph gets the advantage because he got cars to swallow some oil, and then uses Caesar's headband to basically launch it at him with Harmon, and cars destroyed it, setting it ablaze, and that caused him to catch on fire and explode from inside. Wamo congratulates Joseph on his victory and tells him that now is the time that he has earned the right to take that antidote. And he does, and he manages to be cured. During all this, Cars and Lisa have been fighting, but it's not true because Kars has been or at least Lisa has been fighting a doppelganger, and Kars appears behind her and takes the stone. He then uses that, combines it with the stone masks, and applies it to himself, turning himself into the ultimate being. The sun rises, destroying all of the vampires around them, except for Kars, who stands in the sunlight as a super being. Joseph grabs the Redstone of Asia, takes off, and Wamu follows him, turning his arms into feathers so he can follow him as a bird. Because he wants the redstone back so he can create more like himself. Joseph breaks into an airbase and steals a German plane and takes off with Kars still filing behind him. Kars gets onto it, they're fighting, and then Joseph basically gets it so that the plane is crashing towards a volcanic island, and manages to make it so that the plane hits Kars and crashes him directly into the molten lava, while Joseph manages to jump to safety. But he just stares as Kars strolls out of the lava completely unharmed. As he emerges, basically he slices off one of Joseph's hands. Joseph, without even thinking about it, uses his other hand to raise up the Super Aja, and somehow the power of that stone causes the volcano to become more powerful and starts erupting at a higher level, and it ends up firing the stone underneath Joseph and Kars into the stratosphere. Joseph's severed arm manages to hit Kars, which distracts him long enough for him to get even launched further out, landing Kars out into deep space. And and even though he's still alive, he cannot move, he cannot do anything. He is stuck, existing forever, floating in space. And no one knows what happened to Joseph. Everyone thinks that he's dead. They're holding a funeral for him when Joseph just appears, and apparently he survived and has been in a hospital being taken care of by Susie Q, Lisa's assistant, and now they're married. They're going off to be a couple. The story then cuts forward to 1987, so the entirety of the story took place in 1939. This takes place in 1987, where Joseph is an older man now and has traveled to Tokyo to visit his daughter and to figure out what is going on with his grandson, who is now in a heap of trouble. And that's how season 2 ends. And I really like this season. It's a little hard to follow, a little bit convoluted, but it definitely has a really great pace and story to it. It has a very much a go, 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 go kind of attitude towards it. So you don't get a lot of the deeper character moments, but you get a lot of action and a lot of storytelling and a lot of movement. And it's a lot of fun. Honestly, it's kind of interesting. It's got one of the more interesting main characters, and honestly all of anime, I would say. But you got Joseph, who is a very much a anti-hero. He's not the guy you want to come save you. He's the complete antithesis of his grandfather, Jonathan. Jonathan was a goody two-shoes Boy Scout kind of thing, and then Joseph is the guy that, will cause trouble and does not care. It just wants to fight to be stronger, and will fight dirty and will do whatever it takes to win. And you kind of love him for it. Like, he's an annoying prick, but he's a great annoying prick. It's a lot of fun to read him and watch him and all of that. Like, he's one of the more interesting, well-written characters in, I think, all of anime. And it's kind of interesting. It's like, because if you look at it and you look at who he faced and how hard these fights were and what was going on, he arguably had the hardest fight in almost all of JoJo. Like, the Pillar Men are up there with, like, Frieza level of villains. They're like the ultimate super beings that are nearly indestructible. Like, they only win by, like, the skin of their teeth, and even then, it's, like, near death for every single time. And they're so hard to kill, and so hard to stop, and so hard to slow down, and it's just, they're really interesting, really hard to beat. And one of the people that got me into JoJo were talking about this, and it's like, if you really look at it, none of the other protagonists from any of the other JoJo series could have taken down the Pillar Men. Joseph only wins because of his cunning, creativity, willingness to fight dirty, and just his creativity. Like, Jonathan would not have survived fighting the Pillaman. Jonathan would have died in the first 5 minutes against Santana. Like, and Santana is flat out the weakest of them. They describe him as being dramatically weaker than Cars and AC/DC. So, like, yeah, it's really interesting that that's the way it comes out, and it's cool to have that. And it's like you get a real idea of where the series is going and what's going on and what they can do with it. You've got Hamon, which can be infused with almost anything and be used in such creative, unique ways. And then you got the interesting vampires, and now we've seen like these uber vampires that they say there are more of them. There can always be more of these uber vampires at some point. And you could kind of see where the series could go from here. And for whatever reason, the person who made the series just went nope and went the extreme opposite. Like, this is the last of this style of story, and the completely changes for season 3 Stardust Crusaders. It is incredibly different. But we will get to that when we get to that, and I will hopefully get to that before the end of this year. But this, it's like you have a good character, you have an interesting main character who has a lot of depth to him. You have good villains. The Pillarmen are really good with really interesting powers and really hard to kill. They don't have a huge personality, but they have stuff about them that makes them interesting, such as their hubris and their willingness to acknowledge other people's strength. It's kind of like fighting 4 Thanoses at the same time. It's like that's sort of what the Pillarmen kind of are, because like they are truly menacing and truly terrifying, even if they have the dumbest names. Because I'm sorry, Cars, ECDC, Santana, and Wamu are really bad names. And then it's just, you have interesting setup and interesting world. I would say, though, the weakness of this is the fact that, one, it is constantly rushing forward, so you don't get a lot of slower character moments. I would say the thing that's kind of let down by this is some of the side characters and some of the side plots. Like the fact that one of the big allies of the story, one of the big people that helps you out through the stories, is a literal Nazi, is a bit much, but it is kind of showing how they're the bigger threat in this, that, and the other. But it's still kind of like, And some of the side characters don't get really delved into or given a purpose or a reason to be there. Like, there's a whole character called Smokey Brown, who was this kid that Joseph rescued in the very beginning of the first episode. And then he does nothing for like the rest of the series. Like, he takes care of Irina while Joseph is doing all this, and then he also shows up at a certain point to tell us that Lisa is Joseph's mom. At which, yeah, Lisa is Joseph's mom. I didn't even add it into the story because it really doesn't add or take anything away from the story in any real sense. Like, we find out, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, well, why do you look like you're 22? It's like, oh, because the stone keeps me from aging. Okay, let's go tell Joseph. Nope, don't tell him. Doesn't need the distraction. It's like, okay. So yeah, we, the audience, know that Lisa is Joseph's mom, but Joseph doesn't find out until at least till after the series is probably over. So it's like you don't really get a full breakdown of why Lisa left or what's going on with any of that. Like, I got more from looking up the Wikipedia page to help remember some of the story, because the first thing on the Wikipedia page for this series was just literally the breakdown of, Lisa's husband was attacked by vampires and was killed in that, and so Lisa, who had been training for Hamon, went out to get revenge and found the red stone and found out about the Pillarmen and knew she had to do something about it. That's way more explanation than I really felt we got in the series or the manga. I got that from the Wikipedia page. And yes, no, I have read the whole series, or this whole season, and I've watched the whole season on anime. It's a lot, and it's hard to remember every single step. So, Wikipedia. And, like, you also have, like, Susie Q, who has nothing. She's just there to be the victim and then to be the wife. But she has no real point to it. It's like, because, like, she's there, but Joseph doesn't even hit on her except for like twice, and then for some reason we're supposed to believe he's deeply in love with her and got married to her. It just comes out of nowhere. But And I mean, she did technically nurse him back to health. That could be a factor. Who knows? You get the impression that he doesn't care much about her, and when you find out some of the stuff later about their relationship, you kind of get the yeah, you kind of realize he didn't super care about her, but that kind of fits with his personality of being an arrogant prank. Of course, he thinks he can have multiple women. There's also this whole little scene that is really weird upon thinking about it and re-going over it, where it's like there was a point where Joseph was spying on Lisa and trying to see her in the bath, and it's like, dude, that's your mom. Like we know, and once you find that out, it's like, oh, but at the time, it's like, ooh, dude, that's your mom. You just tried to see your mom in the naked in the bath, but you know, he didn't know, so it's but it's still kind of like, eh. But yeah, I will say like this one has really good action. I would possibly I'd put this in like the top 3 of JoJo for me. Like it's got better action than Blood did. Phantom Blood had a lot of stuff that worked for it, but it was kind of let down by a generic main character and a really short story time, whereas this one got a lot bit more time, a little bit more depth to it, had a little bit more going on with it. It's got more interesting main character. I would argue the Pillarmen are as strong, if not more interesting than Dio. It's hard to say. Dio's a really hard one to beat because like the first thing we saw him do was kick a dog and then immediately murder a dog. Like it's hard to not hate Dio with a passion. But the Pillarmen are easily up there, at least especially in power and just what they represent. Like they are just this unstoppable, deadly force that can destroy you without a thought. Like just literally a normal human being bumping into them explodes them. Like the human just, I mean, yeesh. But it's like, so it's got great action, good storytelling, but it does have weaker character development and weaker character moments. I am interested to see, because I haven't gotten to the part in the series, but there's a certain one of these series that's a retread of this timeline from a different universe's perspective. So it's like, it's all about Joseph Joestar and Caesar Zeppeli, but they are now horse racers going across America and fighting against the president. And I haven't gotten to see anything about it. I don't know much about it. I haven't gotten to read it all either. But I'd be interested to see how it compares. Like I can definitely tell you the Joseph from this looks nothing like the Joseph from that. But it'll be an interesting one when I get to that. So yeah, overall I really like this one. It's got good action, good characters. I really like the elements it's going for, and it leads into season 3 very well. And we will get to Stardust Crusaders hopefully before the end of the year. So what do you all think? Did you like this series? Did you dislike this series? Is there something in this that I missed that you want to talk about? Let me know in the comments below. Happy watching, happy reading. I will see you all again next time. Bye.